20 years ago, the Iron Curtain was still firmly down. The grip of Eastern Europe was under communism. And a man who came to Winnipeg was a man by the name of František. František was the pastor of the largest Pentecostal church in Prague, Czechoslovakia. During the communist regime in Eastern Europe, churches did not fare well, but this man was doing it because he knew how to love his people and love his city, and he was bringing people to Christ every single day. Now, for some reason, they released him to come to Canada on a goodwill mission. They were trying to pretend they had freedom of religion, which they didn't. He felt like he was being spied on the whole time he was with us. And then one night there was a bunch of us pastors and wives, and we were sitting together in this room, and he says, I feel safe, I'm going to tell you what's really going on in Czechoslovakia. And he began to tell us the story. And he told us the story about how there was KGB agents and Secret Service agents in his service every single week. Every week they were spying on him. Every week they were taking notes. He said several times they would break down the door of his apartment and come into his flat and beat him with sticks and rods in front of his wife and his children and drag him off to prison. He was beaten, he was bruised, he was in prison many, many times. And then one day the Secret Service, Communist Secret Service, decided that František was too much of a threat. And they decided they were going to take him out. And they sent a man, an assassin, to Prague to kill him. Now, before he did the deed, he had to gather some information on him. I guess he used his rules about killing people. So anyway, he came for 2 weeks. He came to the service. He was sitting in the back. He was taking notes, and he was spying on him. And he was finding out where he lived and all kinds of things. And about a week and a half into this little event, František could figure out who he was because he had spies as well. That's how you survive in places like that. František kept on telling us. He said, translated in English, you would call this man the Terminator. Well, that works. We understand what the Terminator is. And so the Terminator has a heart attack, and he ends up in the hospital. There he is with this serious coronary, a line on this hospital bed, and guess who goes to see him? Pastor František. He goes to see him, and he starts to share the love of Christ. And he comes back the next day, and he's sharing the gospel with him the next day. And he comes back the third day, and he's sharing the gospel. And finally, on the third day, the Terminator said, why are you doing this? Don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I'm doing here? And František said, I know exactly what you're doing here. I know exactly what you came for. And so then this man, the Terminator, said, then why are you doing this? Why are you visiting me? Why are you telling me about the love of Christ? And he said, I'll tell you why. Because Jesus loved me enough to come and save me when I was lost. Therefore, I have to return the favor and love you when you're lost. Well, the man just began to cry. And he began to weep. He was an assassin. He was a career assassin, and people get emotional on their deathbeds, don't they? They start to think about their future and eternity, and he began to cry and cry and cry. And right there in that hospital room, František led his would-be assassin, his enemy, to a relationship with Christ. That very night, the assassin died. That very night. When we get to heaven, people, we're going to meet the Terminator. He's going to be in heaven. And his name will not be Arnold Schwarzenegger.